On this, do I need to back up?
No, you're fine.
Okay, because I don't want anybody to have to
Yeah.
look at me. It's bad enough they gotta look at Commissioner Fletcher.
Mary Ann Proctor stuff, talking about on WLW how we gotta remove the 4% how she's in the task force, but she doesn't even know how.
We're live.
It's not live yet.
It is now. It just wasn't.
Welcome, everyone. Glad you could be here. If I can get our team 2 representative coming over. Oh, Gary, I'm sorry. Thank you. Hi, Gary.
Would you bow with me in prayer? Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for the opportunity of serving in Rotary. And we thank you for the good that happens through Rotary around the world. We thank you for the good that happens in our own community. We thank you for our schools, and we thank you that we can focus on them today. And thank you for all that's gone into making them good places for our young people to learn. Be with us and guide us in this coming week and make us useful to your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Join the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, second, third, fourth.
Thank you very much. And welcome to our meeting today. Mr. Ferguson, do we have any updates from the club? I'm sorry, from team 2?
Yes, also from the foundation, we are going to award, actually, we awarded one family this morning, Leon's Health. They're gonna be able to stay where they're living, and then this afternoon, we're gonna help another family stay where they're living, and that's all because of this collective.
And Jim, of course, is talking about our Sunrise of Hope initiative that we've been working to raise funds to help more families across our district. Sean.
We have guests. We have a lot of guests today here, man. All right, Mr. Jim Leach, would you stand and tell us what you do, sir?
I'm retired from 30 years in the Army, and I'm running for city council in Florence.
Great. Welcome, Jim. Wes Reynolds. Wes.
Hi, everybody. I am a branch manager for US Bank and a guest today of Neville's. Thank you for having me.
All right. Paul McPeak needs no introduction to you.
Oh, gee. Just a volunteer in the community, just enjoying life in Boone County.
There you go. Way to go, Paul. He volunteers so much, he's actually been one of our Rotary Citizen of the Year.
Yes.
Doug Keeling. Wow, Doug is here.
Yeah.
You got some big shoes to fill from the person who's usually here, Doug. Barb Keeling.
Yeah, right.
Barb's here. Barb's here.
That's the way he's at home too. I just want to say thank you for this club joining the Kiwanis Club in our school supply donation program that we ran in end of July. And we've only done this for 3 years. And the first 2 years, the first year was with Ryle only. And then last year we added Boone. And because of you guys, we were able to add Connor this year. And that takes care of 3 of the 4 high schools in Boone County. Cooper High School, I guess, is taken care of by a local church. They're taking care of some. Now all 4 Boone County high schools have over $1,000 worth of school supplies. Thanks to you guys.
And Doug has given me a list, dropped off the items to Ryle High School. He invited me to do that to help that. So I'll pass this list around so you can see all the different items that were purchased with some of the funds that we donated and came through his organization.
Yeah, you guys took care of really 2 major schools. You took care of Boone and Ryle, so it was really good.
Thank you.
You guys matched. Every school, based on, we had Myers donated $1,000 with a gift card. And we also, Kiwanis International Children's Fund gave us $1,000. So that's plus what you guys did. That's why we were able to take care of all three schools, and
That's awesome.
they have enough supplies based on previous years, according to the administrators, to get them at least through October, November, and then we have the funds from Myers plus the grant and our club to be able to take care of them through into March or April. So,
Nice.
and this, so they're pretty well taken care of. And that's, I asked them, basically about how many kids they take care of. And I'm really surprised. Anywhere from 40 to 80 a day
Yeah.
per school. I mean, it's just amazing. So thank you guys for all you guys do. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Robert Boyer. Robert, it looks like you do things outside.
Yeah.
What else do you do, Robert?
As much lay by the pool.
I like it. Okay,
We're still retired.
let me know if you need an assistant. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you.
Pat Morgan. Welcome, Pat.
Thanks. I've heard a lot about Rotary Club from Julie and I'm a retired teacher from Boone County Schools. I do a lot of work now with positive culture and building positive mindset in our school systems and at St. E. So Cancer Center at St. E. So just excited to finally get to be here. I'm usually in a classroom at this point. So really happy to be here.
Well, great. Well, we have, we're not gonna give any more Reds reports, okay? Kate Meyer ended that for me. We are done. But positive news on the black and orange front. I even went to part of the preseason game, and our offensive line looked really good. They were supposedly the backups, and everything very encouraging there. And Zach didn't screw anything up, so that's just a pleasant evening. But, that's that report. The other report is our golf outing is October 2nd. I have brochures here. This is one of our bigger fundraisers as well. So we need support from the community, and we have folks that go out and ask for whole sponsors and that sort of thing. So my brochure will be over here. Raise your hand. I'll bring you one around if you'd like that. I'd like to welcome all the school folks here. What you do is invaluable to our community. I think parents are the #1 resource for education. They have to reinforce what you guys are doing. But the world today has a lot of ideas for what you should be doing. So I feel sorry for you. In 5 days, the school system, the big thing around Boone County was growth. So we had to have kids in trailers. Now, some of my friends that own those things, they call them, they don't call them mobile homes, they call them manufactured housing. So we had a lot of manufactured housing. And I'm sure Boone County, we're still dealing with that because we still deal with growth, but not to that amount. And redistricting is always something that used to be, get people in a lot of trouble. But if you ever listen to the kids, as long as my neighbor's going with me to the new school, it's not a bad thing. So that's a good thing. And the final thing is, one of the biggest challenges we had this new school in Union that would fire this cannon off. We had a neighbor that had about 8 horsemen. It didn't go over well, but that's the end of that story.
Not at all that.
Let's just say it was horse doo-doo where it shouldn't be.
Thank you, Sean. Breaking news here from Barb Keeling. We have some news about the Citizen of the Year announcement.
I do. So we had a very, very close rate for Citizen of the Year. And we had to call in some extra players to do some voting so that we could break the tie. And Sherry Walters is our Citizen of the Year for this year. And we will honor her on October the 5th, and it will be at the Nature Center. Neville, you note that? Okay, because it said that it was gonna be here, but it can't be here. It's not big enough.
Yeah.
But it'll be at the Nature Center, and so we'll honor Sherry then for all of her accomplishments, all the things that she's volunteered for over the years. And you guys come that day and honor her, and you can hear all about it.
Thank you, Barb. Sorry. Let's see, we do need a few board members for the club board. So let me know if you're interested in that. Let's see, I think we got news that are,
We're gonna cancel that one, yeah.
okay, so today's foundation board meeting is canceled. So remember that group. Sean, any information for the golf outing to share?
Come and have a great time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so a few volunteer opportunities there coming up, so pay attention to those. There's a quick summary on the top is last year's summary of our hours and the funding, if you will, part of that. And then you see what where we are currently, just a few months into this year. Here's our little quote for the day, if you will. Friendship was the foundation rock on which Rotary was built. And tolerance was the element which holds it together. And that's from Paul Harris, the founder of the Rotary organization. And words like that make me think of a lot of different things, but that part about friendship and using your relationships, your connections to do good work in your community. It sounds like a lot of the things that we just talked about with a few people here that they mentioned some of the things they're doing. But it's very powerful. And I would even think in a certain way, it's biblical. If you look at Hebrews and you look at what was said then about, and let us consider how we may spur one another on for love and good deeds, not giving up, meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day approaching. So don't forget that part about encouraging others, whether other members of our club, the friends and so forth, encouraging people that are not members to come join us at times to see what we do as we work to help each other and help others. We have a few birthdays. Mine's tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
Cash is always a good gift. And always hard to see as well. All right, happy dollars. Do we have any happy dollars today?
I'm gonna give a happy dollar. I made it today.
Yes.
Any others?
I'll do a happy dollar. Glad to be back from a 3-week cruise through Europe.
Oh, nice.
Good. Good job, Don.
That's awesome.
3 weeks.
Act two, first time ever. So our youngest daughter was married 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Very much. So that was very cool. It was a special event. And the second is that same week, I finished the renovation on my youngest daughter's house, so it's on the market and I don't have to look at it anymore.
All right, 4 years ago, I left a very comfortable position in banking and started my own business, and I'm still standing today.
There you go.
Yeah. Any others? Go ahead.
I had a wonderful week off in Disney with my grandbabies and my daughter and her husband. I know it sounds.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, wrapping up. Any others? Roy?
I'm happy to announce that finally the stars have lined up. I had the wherefore, had the product, and I'm attending the meeting. So one of the conferences I attended and picked up some things that some people might be interested in. I've left them over here. There's a clue what conference on the table.
Okay.
So
Okay.
check it out, please.
Thank you. All right, any further announcements, anything we've missed that we need to make sure to share with the group? All right. So let's introduce our speaker. Robbie Fletcher is the Commissioner of Education in Kentucky. Sean, he and I taught in back-to-back trailers, if you will, back in the 90s at Williamstown High School. Right. And he even.
Those are manufacturing homes.
They were very manufactured.
So he and I worked closely together. He was also the assistant baseball coach. I was the head coach at the time. And if he tells you he's responsible for all the wins, he's lying. No, we were very close friends and we still stay in touch. So I'm pleased to welcome Robbie Fletcher to you.
Well, hello. I will say there's a few things that kind of struck me in the opening, and I'll talk a little bit before I get into this. I think about relationships. You know, for me, relationships are so important. As a matter of fact, it was part of our work that we did in Lawrence County. We wanted to make sure we had relationship with every single kid in the district. We want to know them by name, who they were, what they do, what their interests were. And that was a big push. And we really did that because we really felt that in order to make sure, you know, let's face it, when kids come into our school district, sometimes we have to teach them to dream. We really do. We have to know them to see what their dreams are. We have to inspire them. And also too, we have to teach them to persist. We have to let them struggle a little bit. We have to let them work a little bit. See how can you face life is not easy. So how do you allow students to struggle? Then of course, at the end, to let them succeed. So we did all that because we wanted to make sure we had a relationship with each and every kid, but also too, we had a lot of success. We had a great team, but it was built on relationships, which makes sense because in my faith is built on a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. So that's one of the things when you think about relationships, it's so important to have that. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of how you maybe can connect with the commissioner a little bit. If you were to type in the war on poverty and Fletcher, the very first picture that comes up is President Johnson at the front porch in 1964, 10 years before I was born. In 1964, on the front porch of Tom Fletcher in Martin County. Tom is my cousin.
Wow.
And Tom, I can tell you a lot of stories about Tom, and then I can tell you a lot that my dad told me about what happened that day. But another reason why I bring that up is we have so much poverty in Eastern Kentucky, but we also have it in our schools. So I'm very thankful to see all the work that you're doing to combat poverty in that. So if you get an opportunity once, later on today, scroll through, type in War on Poverty Fletcher. The very first picture, you'll see Tom, who my dad says scooted a 5-gallon lard bucket over to the president and said, have a seat. And he didn't, but you see him crouched down and he's talking to Tom about, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, all the weapons in the war on poverty. So again, little connection for me. Now, also too, I want to talk to you a little bit about where we are in Kentucky, what's going on and where we're going. But to start, I want to hear from you. I do a little bit of research before I come in, and I realize that you are very active in school systems, particularly Boone County. I want to ask you, what is different? What are you seeing in the classrooms in Northern Kentucky, Boone County, maybe other counties, that is definitely different than the high school, elementary school, middle school that you attended? What's something that you would like to share that's going on? You're like, wow, this is different than when I went to school, in a good way. Yes, sir.
They're using computers.
Using computers. There we go. In a positive way, I hope.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that with computers, I'm one of those that, I think that you still have to have that personal relationship, but computers can also be a way to, how can we expose students to maybe a museum that they've never seen before, or maybe never have the opportunity. We can expose them to so many things through the web, through computers, and having that same. So one thing that you're seeing in schools, computers. Others? Yes.
Say greater resources to help the kids. We have helped a family in Covington, and those resources in their school it's just phenomenal. Nothing like that existed. RC Hinsdale in the 70s.
Well, and I agree. The resources that are there too. I think that You know, one of the things that helped me out going through school was I had people that connected me with financial resources to make sure I had the opportunity to go to college, or connected me to the opportunities to travel throughout the state through my high school academic team or through my baseball team. Those are great too. How many of you have seen Defenses of Learning? How many of you have been a part of Defenses of Learning? Anybody want to share your experience on defensive learning? What you saw that you were like, wow, this blows me away. I'm gonna put Julie on the spot.
Okay.
So Julie,
Yes. So our club has been participating. We used to call it senior exit interviews. And we've been doing it for 10, 12 years. But I've seen the migration in that process, that this year the kids were really honed in on the skills in the portrait of a learner. They had fantastic artifacts, meaning, examples of what they're learning and how they're displaying the characteristics of the portrait of a learner. And then the last thing for me, the revelation just really happened this last year, because I did a 5th grade, an 8th grade, and a 12th grade Defenses of Learning. And you're going to get into this, Robbie, is in order for the kids to have these kind of artifacts, really deep knowledge and display of the criteria of the portrait of a learner, they have to have vibrant learning experiences in the classroom. And so I see that push now, that the kids are really seeing much more engagement, which if you look down the road, or if you look at the impact of, if the kids are engaged, it reduces chronic absenteeism, it reduces behavior problems, increases academic performance, and it's just the kids want to be there. And so I'm seeing that transformation just over probably the last 3 years.
and Julie is giving my presentation. No, seriously, that's exact. Thank you so much for that, Julie. If you think about Defenses of Learning and you hear about portrait of learning, for those of you who may not be familiar, you see, I think we're up over 160 districts in the state of Kentucky out of 171 that have what we call portrait of learner, which looks at different competencies. And in particular, you're going to see a lot of these that'll focus in on communication. How well can a student communicate? How well can they collaborate? How well can they problem solve? Are they critical thinkers? So when I ask you a question, how many of you believe that students are much more than just a test score?
Yes.
They are so much more than a test score. How many of you believe that your schools are so much more than a color? Well, that's where the defenses of learning, the new accountability model comes into play. How can you assess or hold a district accountable for the opportunities for a student to work in a team, to collaborate with others, to work as a problem solver, creative, critical thinker? And I've got some other things in here, and I know that if you start listening to these, you're going to, oh, this happens in this school, this happens in this school. I want to share a few stories before I move forward. And I get the opportunity to see different things that are going on. So I'm not going to highlight Northern Kentucky, although I could give you several examples because I don't want to make anybody mad. So I'm going to spread out throughout the state a little bit. And I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, and I'll pick a few. I don't give all these, but let's go to Barron County. Have you folks seen the story about the young man? He came in as a kindergarten student. He was wearing a rubber glove. The teacher noticed very quickly, and what happened was the student didn't have a hand. And of course, as a kindergarten student, he was embarrassed because he didn't look the same as everyone else. Well, that teacher in Barron County started looking around and got in contact with a company, I think it was called Enable Robotics. And they designed a hand with a 3D printer that's in the school. They 3D printed this child a hand by the time I think he was in his 2nd grade. And if he flexes his wrist one way, the hand closes. If he flexes the other, opens up. He's like Iron Man now. You know, he's got the coolest hand. He's a cool kid. But can you imagine being a student in that elementary school to say, you know what? I helped 3D print that. But here's something even more important. Now, as a 4th grader, this student is in a 3D printing class. It kind of gives me chills when you think of that. Let's go out to Hopkins County. Hopkins County has an ag department, carpentry class, their math classes, they all work together on a project called the Freight Box Challenge. And if you look at the Freight Box Challenge, they basically take a 40-foot freight box, those on the big barges we see that come across, you know, when I was at Savannah at the beach, I saw a few come around. And what they did first was they took that box and wrote some Bible verses on the inside. I was able to write my favorite, Revelation 21:4. Look it up sometimes if you like. And then they framed the inside of that box and then designed a medical office. That medical office now sits in Liberia, Africa. It is the only medical office in that community. If you know a little bit about Liberia, it's a Civil War torn country. It is the only medical office, and now they're designing another medical office that has solar panels, storage space, because they learned from their design and what the community needed. But you have a medical office sitting in Liberia, Africa, that was designed at Madisonville North Hopkins High School. Elizabethtown. Elizabethtown is about, if they haven't already, I think it's this next month, their tourism group came to them and said, you know what, we have a problem in our community. I think it's Freeman Lake, if I recall correctly. Freeman Lake is right there around in Elizabethtown. They have issues with litter on the lake. They went to their engineering class and they said, we want you to design a lake Roomba that will clean the lake, take it to a certain area, dump it off so it can go on to a landfill somewhere. But you have the tourism group that came to the hospital and said, fix this problem, fix this issue for us. And their hospital stepped in. Now think about the robotics, the programming, the GPS, all the things that they're learning about and they're actually applying to solve a problem in their community. And I can't go anywhere without talking a little bit about Eastern Kentucky. So I'm originally, if you can't tell from the dialect there, I am an Eastern Kentucky boy, proud, born and bred in the mountains, raised in a holler. But in Eastern Kentucky, there's several schools throughout the state that do this now. But it started in East Kentucky through a grant where essentially you had a $10,000 grant where students you get these trailers, these metal trailers that you pull behind with a trailer hitch, whatever, and they would design tiny houses. The engineering class would design the tiny house. The carpentry class would build the tiny house. The art class would paint the tiny house. The electrical class would wire the tiny house. The business class would manage the budget for it. Then when it was all completed, it went to auction and they saw how much money they could get back. So if they had more money that came back than what they put into it, the next one tried to be bigger and better. I've seen these tiny houses evolve until they're no longer tiny houses. They have longer trailers, everything, still tiny houses, I guess. But think about, well, let me add to it too. A lot of these students that go through this program actually have started their own tiny house businesses. Very much like the defenses of learning that you see here, there's so many opportunities where kids are getting passion projects. They're being able to talk about what they're doing. You're seeing how they grow as communicators, collaborators, critical thinkers, as 4th graders, 8th graders, 12th graders. But all these go together in what we call vibrant learning. Now, this is happening. I'm proud to say that this is spreading throughout the Commonwealth. It's happening in larger pockets now. And I would give Jeff an opportunity to talk about all the vibrant learning that's going on here in Boone County, but he would take up the rest of the time because I know we have to end at 1. You know, as a former Rotarian, I understand the sacredness of 1 o'clock, and as a Paul Harris fellow, as a matter of fact, I understand the sacredness of 1. So I will not give the mic to Jeff, but if you have some opportunities, I'm sure he can give you a lot more examples. But the reason why I brought that up, and Julie did a great job doing a segue into this, to talk about vibrant learning in high schools. Now, again, we believe that students have to have the foundational skills in reading and mathematics in order to be able to do vibrant learning. But think about it as a student, if you had the opportunity to help build this tiny house, or you had the opportunity to help design a hand, or if you had the opportunity to do defenses of learning. We call those vibrant learning because they're joyful opportunities for kids. They're relevant. There are things that make kids want to get out of bed each and every day to come in instead of just saying, oh, here's a worksheet with 30 math problems. Don't get me wrong. As a former math teacher, there's room for practice. Absolutely. But how do you apply that? So the reason why I have these 3 priorities, if you look at our Kentucky Board of Education, which we have 2 members here, you guys know, Julie and Randy both are on the Kentucky Board of Education. There's a call to action that came out of probably 3, maybe 4 years ago that really set forth 3 priorities, with vibrant learning being one of the very first pillar. How do we change the high school experience or the elementary, the middle school experience so that students can take what they know and apply it to relevant, for example, having the community come and say, we have an issue in our community. We want you to solve it. As a student, then all of a sudden, it's important to me. I have a reason to be there. Don't get me wrong. I was intrinsically motivated. I love mathematics. If they just gave me a math book and a calculator, I would come to school no matter what. But not all students are like that, nor should they. They should have those opportunities to do vibrant learning. Now, encouraging innovation. I'm going to touch a little bit about the new accountability model, just to give you a little bit of say, this is where we're going, and this is what's been passed in our General Assembly. But the last part is creating bold new future for Kentucky schools through collaboration with our communities. This is not a new concept for you. I listened, and actually Julie supplied me some things that you folks have been doing in our schools. And I have a big argument that vibrant learning can only be possible through collaboration with our community. Now, accountability comes into play also, but this is not a new concept for #FlowRo. I had to use that. I saw that on social media, Florence Rotary. I was like, that's too cool. I may be in my 50s, but I still like to act like I'm cool sometimes. And some of you are much more cool than much cooler, I guess I should say. And these are things that you know. But I wanted to brag on it just and to say thank you. First of all, give a student from each high school scholarships, public and private, in the county, $1,000 each year, and you've given over $180,000. I used to work some of those booths. I used to do Bahama Mamas and Rotary Hash on Saturdays at Septemberfest to make this possible. There's a lot of elbow grease that goes into this. There's a lot of work, and most importantly, there's a lot of time. Thank you for that. Thank you. As a former Rotarian, I know what that means. It's not just as simple as somebody writes a check. There's a lot of work that went into this. Also, too, we talked a little bit about defenses of learning. If you haven't been a part of defenses of learning, we have, and maybe this happens in Boone County, but I've heard specific examples where students give a defense of learning in their senior year, and a company offers them a job at the end. They're so impressed with what students are doing and their passion for whatever projects they're doing, that they walk out with a job offer. For those of you that have participated in defense learning, thank you. That's time. That's effort. Thank you. The one-to-one reading coaches. Again, let's go back to relationships. While computers are very important, we want students to be able to have some intervention, some enrichment when computers are used, but nothing can take away from that one-on-one reading with the child. And it's as rewarding for you as it is for the child. So for those of you that have participated in that and given your time, thank you. And I've shared a little bit of this. I kind of alluded to this. I was a GAP student. I was on free and reduced lunch all years of school, but my mom stayed at home. We had food on the table every single day. My dad was laid off from the coal mines and found jobs here and there. I didn't know I was poor. And then when I went through the lunch line, I would just find out, hey, look, I get free and reduced lunch. But looking back on it, the people that filled in the gaps for me, I'm so thankful for it. Without them, I wouldn't be here today. So the same for you. For those of you that help fill those gaps for students, you look at the Gateway Community College, thank you for that. And we talked a little bit about the school supply drive. I think there's a spreadsheet going around with that. As a former superintendent, let me rewind back. As a former principal, I've done home visits. And you walk into a trailer, it's just a frame on the inside. Here you have the toilet, no wall, and here's the kitchen sink. That's normal for that child. For us, we're like, oh my. You can't tell me that a pencil is important for that kid. But when they walk through the school doors, that's one less thing they have to worry about. They have one less thing you have to, and thank you for that time of whether it be pencils, paper, clothes. You don't want to see a child come in to be embarrassed because they don't have something. You're filling that gap. Thank you for that. And of course, you talked a little bit, Matt talked a bit earlier about the sunrise of hope. Again, filling the gaps for those kids. You know, and a lot of times too, I'll talk about another group that comes up a lot. How about the grand families? How many grandparents are raising their grandkids now and need that extra help to understand the technology? How do you operate? How do you manage this? How can I actually help my grandchild? I'm 2 generations removed. But people like you and you are doing things like this to help students. So I want to say thank you for that. Of course, our teachers. You know, look at any time that you donate to a charity in a teacher's name, or, you know, I think one of our teachers of the year for the Milliken Award came from Boone County.
Yep.
Longwood Elementary, correct? Yep. Longwood Elementary.
Long Branch.
Long Branch, I'm sorry. I apologize, Jed.
Shannon.
Long Branch.
She was teaching college also.
Oh, there you go. So, but again, to have those opportunities to help our teachers and say, you know, we see you, you're important, you make a difference. Teachers need to hear that. And I'm gonna say thank you for doing that. So that all goes back to that third pillar, collaboration. It's not just about money, it's about time that you donate. That's so important in our schools. And that's the second pillar. Of course, as business folks too, I'm sure I've heard different stories about internships, apprenticeships, job shadowing. You know, I can tell you about a job shadowing opportunity my daughter had. She's in medical school, 4th year. Yes, Abby's in 4th year medical school. But I remember her coming home and saying, Dad, I knew it was real. Let me stop just a second. She's working with an optometrist, by the way. She said, Dad, I knew it was real when she pulled out the drill. I said, I'm sorry, you have to do it with Dr. Rosario today. What do you mean? She said, she pulled out a drill and pulled out a piece of metal out of this guy's eye. And I said, and you want to go back? She said, absolutely. I'm like, you better woman than I am man. I can say that. But that helped her make a decision on the pathway that she wanted to go. That happens through our hospital, through our businesses, through things like that. Collaboration. Collaboration is key. So thank you for being willing to collaborate with our communities. Now that middle pillar has just taken on a new life, if you call it. House Bill 257 just passed in the General Assembly, and there's some changes to our assessment accountability. Okay. And there's 2 parts to it. There's the state accountability measures. And when you think of this, think about the formula that goes together to say, this is a red school, this is a blue school, this is a green school. Of course, most of the schools in this county are blue, green. So congratulations, by the way, Jeff. So as far as the math, the reading, things of that nature, the science, the social studies, that's that Navy part. But the other part is something I'm very excited about. It's local accountability. And you have a lot of districts that have a regional accountability model now that they can also pull in to talk about their own. But I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. When you think about the dark blue, the state accountability that meets federal requirements is technically what this is. We assess math and reading. We assess science and social studies. The biggest change, in my opinion, is we've incorporated, the board voted for this, our legislator put this into place, individual student growth. To me, one of the most important measures for a school success is where did you get the child, where did you take it? Not necessarily comparing this group's test scores to this test group, this group's test scores is where did you get the individual child and where did you take them later on? Because if you got a teacher who had a proficient student and by the end of the year they were proficient, they did a year of growth. Let's be very clear about that, because if they went from 3rd to 4th grade, they obtained the 4th grade reading standards or mathematics standards. Well, what about that teacher that took a student maybe from a first grade reading level to put them on grade level in third grade? Brought them up 2 grade levels in 1 year. That's a successful year. Now, we're not looking up for full disclosure. We're looking more about comparing, like, if were they proficient 1 year versus distinguished, things of that nature. But it's all based on individual student growth. To me, those are the teachers that we have to have in our buildings that are going to reach the gap kids. If you English language learner progress, the things I have in Navy are very similar to what we did before, but another big change is chronic absenteeism. Full disclosure, I wasn't really big on this part, but our legislators really wanted this added in because, and I'll tell you why. Our schools are held accountable already because if their students aren't in the building, they don't get funded for it. So now it's a part of their accountability model also too, to say if a student is absent for excused or unexcused for more than 10%, it goes into their accountability model overall score. Now, I will say in the General Assembly's defense, there are over 30 some states that have this as part of their accountability. So they really felt like Kentucky needed to follow suit. But again, very thankful for the individual student growth. I can understand the chronic absenteeism, but you also have post-secondary readiness. In other words, college and career readiness is sometimes we think about it that way, and graduation rate. The HS is high school only. The ES and MS is elementary and middle school. That goes together for the formula to identify your CSI, your bottom 5% schools, but also your schools that are yellow, red, orange, blue, and green, with blue and green being your top tier. But the other part is local accountability. We talked about earlier, a lot of people either shook their head or raised their hand when I asked, do you think students are more than a test score? The General Assembly passed House Bill 257, which really promotes a local accountability model for districts. And when I think of local accountability, I think of what exactly does it look like to show growth in a student, not only in math and reading, but also how did they grow as a communicator? How did they grow as a collaborator? So, a local accountability model, the district has the flexibility to create their own. Now, again, you still have the formula that gets the color coding. This is not part of that. This is the part we're encouraging districts to say, what's important in your districts? What do you want to showcase? And where do you want to grow? So if you look at this, you got traditional accountability systems, local accountability systems. We want local people to get in and say, when they walk across the stage at Boone County High School, Connor, Ryle,
Cooper,
thank you. And I just talked about Cooper a little bit earlier. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean they got the 26, 27, 28 credits to get their diploma? Or does that really mean that, you know what, they're going to be successful in the business industry because they're critical thinkers? They're going to be successful in college because they know how to collaborate, communicate. They know how to problem solve. Global thinkers. But we're asking the local community to help your local districts to develop that local accountability model. We have some districts out there that have dashboards that look at financials. They ask the community, say, we want to know how the money is spent. And so we have Green County as an example that they actually do a dashboard that shows how all the money is spent in the district. What percentage is here, what percentage is there. That's part of the local accountability. That's what the district asks for. You have another district that wants to know, several districts that ask about student well-being. What percentage of our students are involved in something other than outside the 4 walls of the school? In other words, are they involved in co-curricular, extracurricular activities? Are they in JROTC? Are they on the football team? Drama club? Art club? Because if you look at research will tell you that it's one of the best indicators of whether or not a student will be successful once they leave our high school based on how active they are in co-curricular, extracurricular activities. In other words, are they involved? We have districts that have recognized that and said, we want that to say, 100% of our students are involved in something. Now think about that. Now you got to change your transportation plan. How do we make sure that a student has a ride back and forth to practice or to be a part of the drama presentation or the art club? How do we change our schedule during the day to make sure students have those type of opportunities too? So all of a sudden, the local accountability model is making differences in decision making. And this is encouraged in the new model. And if you look at what an expansion of what we measure, I asked you earlier, students are so much more. Well, what exactly are they? Local accountability expands what counts as success, capturing a broader, richer picture. What percentage of our students are getting vibrant learning opportunities? What percentage of our students are getting the defenses of learning, getting internships, apprenticeships? And if you're a district, you want to make sure that 100% of your kids get those opportunities. That's different than what did you score on the ACT or SAT. We won't get into that today, right? That's coming up. But I'm here to tell you that if a student has grit, it's going to take them a lot farther than a 35 on an ACT. Matter of fact, there's research from Morehead State University that students that graduate with a 22, 23, 24 on the ACT graduate at a higher rate than students with a 34, 35, 36. Why? Because they were challenged in high school. They had to show some grit, some work. And again, transparency. So I'm going to stop with this, and there's some questions I want to give you an opportunity to ask me some questions. We're coming to a close here. When you think about local accountability models within school districts, what do you think is important? What do you want a diploma to really mean? A student comes in, they come to you and they're saying, I'm a graduate of Conner High School. What does that tell you? How can you arrange an accountability model that shows you what you can expect as a community when they walk across that stage? And that's what we're promoting. Now, again, we still have test scores. We still have math, reading, science, social studies, which are important. They're very important because I think that students have to have grade level experience at grade level and higher. They have to have learning on grade level standards because that makes vibrant learning possible. But what other opportunities are we giving our kids to shine, to be successful? And what truly makes this a successful district? And we're asking for communities like the Florence community members, like your Rotary Club, to continue to be a part of that and also to be a part of those local accountability models as we grow. I will say we have right now 11 districts across the Commonwealth, and this is not required in law. This is, you can join in as an option. We have 11 districts that have an accountability model that's already in place that adds on to the state accountability model. We have somewhere near 30 districts are working towards an accountability model where they brought in their faith leaders, their local government, their Rotary, their Kiwanis, their parents, their students, and say, what exactly do you expect of us? And they've developed those. And my favorite thing that I hear from superintendents is this process has restored the faith of the community in our public schools. We are seeing students come back because they enjoy being part of the process. And I'll end with this one. Superintendent Rockcastle County said that she actually had a business leader in the community that was a part of her local accountability model development. After going through that process and see what happened, the person came back and said, I made a mistake. I homeschooled all my kids. My students missed out. Now, my son-in-law was homeschooled, so I don't have anything. So now he's switched over. He's a public school teacher now. But no, I'm just kidding. I think homeschools are great for some students, and they need that, especially if they have the opportunity that the parent can give them a high quality education. I'm a supporter of homeschools, but I love the fact that people that are seeing like, hey, we have value in our local community, and we want our students to come back to our public school. And that all came through House Bill 257. You get $15,000 if you're a district that you're starting this work. It's not required, it's opt-in. So when you think about what's happening at KDE, I hope you think about vibrant learning, innovation when it comes to accountability. So collaboration. And again, thank you for that. So I'll stop there. You've got 4 minutes for questions. Yes, sir.
So when you say that Boone County's a little ahead then because they authorize or had the students do 30 hours of not research, but helping their community members and that. So, I mean, that's getting out into the community and improving the lives of whoever they're working with.
I think it's so important for students to get out and see what's going on in the community, because how many times do students graduate, and they don't understand what's available in their own community, or they don't see where they can plug in and maybe come back to work, because the goal, my goal always was, how do I get my students to come back? How do I get them to come back home? If they don't come back home, at least come back to the region and things of that nature. So yes, when you have students who are out 30 hours, I think that's phenomenal. Yes, sir.
A few years ago, a movement was started to help all our kids become financially literate as they get out of high school. Has that continued, and how's that program going if that's?
That is a part of, that is required in all of our high schools to have financial literacy to be taught. I mean, that's implemented from my view in every single high school across the state. Good question. Yes, sir.
Where I came from, we had welding classes in our schools that were a high enough model that a high school graduate could go down to the local farm implements factory and immediately go to work. That's what I would expect out of a high school diploma.
Well, I got good news for you. My son was a welder. He walked straight out of high school with every certification possible, but he couldn't get them just yet because he wasn't 18 yet. So they had to wait till he turned 18 to send him his certifications about 2 months after he graduated, but he had every certification applicable in welding. And he did that because we had a partnership with our community and technical schools. Talk about collaboration. So if you don't offer something to the high school, how can you go out to your community college or to your universities and say, how do we make sure our kids get the opportunity for this type of class, whether it be career technical? I just want to say everything's career. Let's be honest.
Well, it's any high school student, regardless of what generation they are, whether they're X, Y, Z, whatever, they're going to want immediate relevancy. And something like that is immediate relevance.
Absolutely. And so my son, I can remember the day that he got out of bed and said, from that point on, when he took his first welding class, I never had to ask him to roll out of bed again. He got up before I did and made sure he was at school. That's when he was able to drive too. So it helped. But again, vibrant learning to him, having those welding classes was vibrant learning for Jacob Fletcher.
I would just add a little content to your Martin County, 1964, LBJ in Martin County. The reason he was there, Martin County was considered the most, the poorest county in the United States of America. Well, it's not much higher now, but it's, that was when you were talking about it, that all came flooding back as a history.
Well, there was a little bit of a swing in the 1980s. Martin County had the highest per capita income and family household income.
Really?
Because of coal. Now coal was exited.
Yeah.
And now we're back to that pre-coal era. So we went from having 1,200 students at the high school, the only high school in the county, to right around 500 now.
Wow. Thank you very much. Great talk.
I'll stay around if anybody has any questions afterwards, so be happy to answer.
So Dr. Fletcher, here's a challenge coin for you, a Rotary challenge coin. Thank you very much for being here, and also a little there you go. There for keep your drinks cold on your drive.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Our next meeting is at the Area Development District, and actually they're going to be our presenter next week. So come with any questions you have to learn about all the work they do in this building and in our community.
I'm so glad you're there.